Okay, so today I wanted to talk about student debt, but I didn't want to rattle off a whole bunch of numbers and tell you the same thing that you've probably heard over and over again for the entirety of this video. You know, everybody seems to have a massive amount of student debt and it's only getting worse, yada, yada, yada. I'm not saying that that's incorrect, but I thought it would be better to go over kind of the life cycle of what you're supposed to do, as at least becoming an adult, you know, 17, 18, going to college, getting a job, buying a house, all of that, and how unattainable it has really become, and especially in the past few years it has gotten exponentially worse. So we got a whole bunch of stuff to go over, but we're just going to start off with the going to college. You're supposed to immediately know exactly what major you're supposed to take and what job you want forever, and immediately just start drowning in debt, because even community college wasn't really cheap. It was like $5,500 a semester for me before I ended up dropping out. But if you go to real college, whew, man, it is way worse.
I have $140,000 in student debt and I'm not stressed about it. So
I'm in my second year of medical school and this is my current student debt. 191,000, and it literally goes up by hundreds every single day.
And this one I had to mute because there was music, but annoyed that I have to pay $100,000 off student debt for fashion school in NYC. We'll talk about the first clip really quick, $140,000 in student debt. Now, if you had that money and was able to put it away in good investments, high yield savings accounts, things like that, you could have $580 per month come to you for absolutely no work. At least for me, that means I'd be able to pay my car insurance, my internet bill, and all of my utilities, including some gas, every single month forever. And I don't know how to explain it. Like, I'm only 26 years old. I feel like when I was 18, to me that feels like it was 20 years ago, and it was only 8. So imagine getting a free $600 per month forever. It's not going to pay all your bills, but I mean, it's a solid amount of money. And I get it, her being 140K in debt, say if she chose not to do that, she's not just going to get $140,000 magically, but I'm just trying to quantify it of what you could do with that money for the rest of your life instead of just drowning in debt. And the medical school one with the chick that's $200,000 in debt already, I bet she's not even close to being done with that. I bet it's going to be double that by the time she's actually out of medical school. Now, if you want to become a doctor because you want to help people and you want to save lives, I'm not going to put you down for that. That's what you want to do. I understand it, and you probably understand the amount of studying you're going to need to do and the amount of debt you're going to need to just to be able to become a doctor. But if you're doing it for the status or the money, from experience of myself, my friend wants to become a dentist, and the amount of studying that he has done, especially compared to me during our high school times, during when he actually went to a real college and I dropped out of community college, and he still has a way to go and a lot of debt to get into before he could become a dentist, which turns into another decade of paying off debts, probably even more, and then you start making a good amount of money. I mean, if you put the same amount of studying time and dedication as everybody has to if they want some sort of medical degree, you put that into some sort of business that you start yourself. You start with a friend, some sort of small business, entrepreneurial. Could be a brick and mortar store, could be something online now, even easier. You put that amount of time, I guarantee you'd be able to make more money than you would becoming a doctor. And I'm very confident in that because, again, I was a good student in school until I realized naturally getting A's and B's without studying, but as soon as I kind of had to study, I just put it in neutral for the rest of my school career. Not putting that much effort into it, and I was still able to build a very successful business that I haven't had to work for somebody since the beginning of COVID, when I stopped working a part-time job and actually took reselling online as a full-time business, and it's been completely fine since. But putting yourself into hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt to become a doctor for the status or the money is just not the way to go anymore. Same to be said about the little clip with the NYU fashion designer school getting $100,000 in debt. You're better off just making your own clothing brand and learning how to do it through like YouTube tutorials. You'll probably become more successful than going to school for it. But we'll move on to the next clip that's pretty jank, but I just kind of wanted to get the audio from it.
I have about $300,000 in student loans, $40,000 in personal loans, $26,000 in credit card debt.
You're working on what kind of a degree?
a doctorate degree.
So that's almost $400,000 alone right there for a doctorate degree. And on top of it, he also doesn't make great decisions being in credit card debt on top of his unbelievable amount of student loan debts. Like, it just snowballs and then you just become a slave to it for the rest of your life. But by some grace of God, you do get out of college with that piece of paper saying that you're qualified to do whatever job you want. Good luck trying to get a job now.
Our market is so bad right now that when you're trying to apply for a job, your ratio of even getting the job that you're applying for is 0 to none. Also, if you have a job, the job market is so bad that your job is overworking you and still paying you the same salary. They're switching up schedules on you, giving you more work, less pay, cutting budgets on you, pretty much jerking you around all around because they know where the job market is.
And companies expect you to be loyal to them as soon as you start working for them for virtually no money. I mean, at this point, you climb up a couple steps of the ladder in like Walmart or Amazon, and you're making more than these people do who spent 4 years in college to get a piece of paper to be allowed to do whatever job that they picked. And you're expected to be loyal? Like, a lot of people are waking up from it, but it's still not getting better.
Is there anyone that's been struggling to find a job within this job market? I know that it's rough and it's bad right now. It's like a genuine concern. I've been applying to like minimum 20 jobs a day.
I could have just made a video of this alone. There's literally thousands of videos on TikTok and everywhere else of just people who have actual degrees. It's not like they're dropouts like me trying to apply for a job that they can't qualify for, but they're applying for hundreds of jobs in Indeed and all of these websites and nobody's biting. And I know what happens with a lot of these companies because my dad is a part of one of those companies. The company he works for will have some sort of job opening and they'll put it on Indeed for whatever title, whatever they need to do. And almost every single time they end up hiring somebody from within the company that already works there, they just end up teaching them how to do this job as well, and then just shuffle around people. And when they move over to do the new job, everybody they used to work for just kind of picks up the slack, and now everybody has to do a little bit more work instead of actually hiring another person because it's cheaper for that. So imagine this on a mass scale as there's more than ever. Everybody has to go get a college degree. It's nothing special anymore. What, 50, 60 years ago, that was like, ooh, special thing. If you have a college degree, you know, you're way ahead of the game of compared to everybody else. But now it's like the absolute baseline. And if it's the baseline, then it's not special anymore and it doesn't mean anything. But we'll go on to the next step. All right, you put yourself into debt, got your bachelor's degree or whatever degree. You actually ended up getting hired from a place. I don't know how you did it, but you did, all right? Now, because we're starting to see a downturn in the market finally, because shocking, just printing more dollar bills, shoving them into the open market probably isn't great for inflation, and now everything's stupid expensive. But as soon as there's any tick of negative revenue, stock prices going down, cost of goods going up, they immediately start firing people. So anybody who is lucky enough to get hired recently at whatever job they were able to scrounge up, now they're getting canned.
I need you guys to pay very close attention and get your resumes out there and really start, I don't care, contact your friends, contact your extended family, contact your ex-coworkers, find out where they're working at, and make sure you have some interviews lined up ASAP. Pay somebody to redo your resume, start applying like I have to make this video because I just had 2 people close to me tell me that they were laid off. What is happening? These are tenured people that have been doing their jobs for a while, been with their companies for a while. This is not good.
And another example that I have like that, people getting laid off who have been there for a while. They're not just some new 22-year-old kid with a new bachelor's degree who got hired and then canned 6 weeks later. These are also people who have been there for years. So if they're gonna get fired, how do you think you're gonna keep your job? I have another example, the same thing. My dad has been working at his company for 10 years now, more than 10 years. During COVID, when everybody was working at home, he ended up applying and learning another job within the company. And because they liked him, you know, they taught him the job, and then he ended up switching departments and getting a little bit of a pay raise and doing a different line of work, but still in the same company. Then, out of nowhere, still during COVID, the entire department that he used to work at were all laid off. Gone. So if my dad wasn't lucky in getting a job opening and being able to learn something that he normally wasn't doing and just stayed where he was, he would have been fired even though he was working there for over a decade. How do you expect to have any loyalty at all for any of these companies?
Well, I got fired again. So I had to pull myself together because this doesn't deserve a cry. But I don't know if you followed me back in January, but I was a recruiter and I lost my job, and I also do like social media marketing, and I ended up losing that job on the same day, and
I thought that this was really funny and ironic because she got canned from 2 different jobs. I think actually 3 in this entire video, but one of them was social media, which is what she's on right now. So I guess, I don't know, wasn't really too great at that. But the other one, she got canned from being a recruiter. Her job was to literally get other people jobs, and nobody could get a job, so she got fired too. You can't make it up. I don't know what else to say.
I just got fired from my job. So I did recently just get hired as a server at a bar in downtown LA. But then just a couple days later today, I got fired from my full-time nursing job.
I didn't hear that the first time looking through this video. LA, that makes more sense. You know what kind of jokes I can make on this? We're just gonna leave it alone. You see what I see. There is something else to talk about in this video. So she got fired from being a bartender in LA while she was also a full-time nurse. So living in LA, being a nurse is not enough. She also had to be a bartender and got canned from both of them. So you're just done. You're cooked. The comments in that video were pretty rough as well. She did do that to herself, so that probably did not help, because no matter how woke you want to be in LA, it probably didn't help being judged for the way she looked with all of that. So, I mean, what are you gonna do? But there's also a ton of videos of people actively getting fired over Zoom. These companies don't even have the balls to fire you in person. They're literally just calling you up going like, hey, you're done, see you later, man.
Thanks for jumping on. So I'm actually here to inform you that today is your last day at Cal. We've determined that this is no longer a critical role for the company and are eliminating the position. And we very much appreciate all the work that you've done during your time here.
And they're just gonna go off and do the whole like HR, long spiel of you were appreciated, but not appreciated enough to actually stay at the job, all of that shit. And there's tons of those videos. Don't even have the balls to fire you in person anymore. You're just gonna get a little FaceTime and go like, hey, you're done. You don't have to work for us anymore. I'm probably also going to make a whole separate video about this, but you get out of your student loan debt, you get your bachelor's degree, you somehow actually get hired for a job in this market, and you keep your job for a while. I mean, at this point, you should probably play the lottery because you are unbelievably lucky. But next up is you're expected to buy a house. Now, I'm just gonna show one little clip right here that also has to be muted for copyright music, but because it's so bad and so difficult to own a house, which is the reason why I'm renting here, I don't own a house either, even though I would say that I do pretty well. There are tons of videos and advertisements of FHA loans, which are first-time home buyer loans. Normally people put down like 20% of the house value as their down payment and then obviously pay the rest off, typically in like a 30-year fixed mortgage. But FHA, I think you're allowed to put down like only 3%, or I guess at least in this clip, this is 3.5%. So if you look through these numbers, I'm just gonna tell you right now, if you put down 24.5 on a house that's worth $700,000, you can't afford the house. You're not going to be able to afford the house because whatever the mortgage is, it's not just going to be the mortgage. And that's exactly why I'm renting on top of how expensive it is, because say your mortgage is a clean, easy $2,000 a month. Obviously, you got all the utilities and the internet bill and blah, 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 but if anything goes wrong in the house, it's on you. And that could be insanely expensive. There was some sort of pipe that broke at my parents' house when I still lived there, where they had to tear up the whole front yard to rip this pipe out. Couldn't use any of the water for a while, had to, completely like regrow the grass. It was all mangled. And it was close to like 10 grand on top of still having to pay for all the rest of your bills. You don't just magically, you don't have to pay the mortgage this month because, your refrigerator took a shit and now you got to buy another $3,000 fridge. These type of clips that show that like, yeah, you could technically only put down this much, but if you're really trying to get a $500,000 house with only 17.5 and you're stretching that down payment, you can't afford a $500,000 house. That's the price of most of these houses now, at least where I am. I'm in a somewhat nicer neighborhood in North Carolina, and I've looked at Zillow. I look at it like every week just to see, and there are maybe 12 or like 15 houses that are under $500,000 where I live. Everything's ridiculously expensive. And if you do get trapped into one of these FHA loans, not knowing how bad it's actually going to get ready to foreclose and completely screw up your life for the next like 7 years, going bankrupt, having no credit. I don't know where you're gonna live, but most of these lending companies do not care. And we're gonna switch it up for the last clip of the video now. I actually do like what this guy says, even though it is pretty stupid from a like third person look, just like kind of on the outside of this, but it does make sense at the same time. If you became an adult but are kind of in that limbo of like going to college, not going to college, or maybe starting your own business, not starting your own business, moving out or staying with your parents, I think what this guy has to say does have some merit, even though it is stupid. We'll watch the clip.
If you want to grow up really fast, sign a lease on an apartment you can't afford. Once you remove the security blanket of your parents' house or your friend's couch, it gets real, and you're either going to figure it out and make a ton of money, or you're going to go broke and move back home. One way or another, you're going to move away from that middle ground of, oh, I'll try this next year, I'll start my business next year, I'll post on YouTube next month. Either you're going to figure it out and it's going to work and you're going to live in that apartment long term, or you're going to fail, move out of the apartment, go back home and realize that it wasn't for you. I already know people in the comments are going to say, that's a terrible financial decision. Why would you ever do that if you can't afford the apartment? It's actually the best financial decision you can ever make. Once your back's against the wall financially and you have to make rent on the first of every month, you're going to work your ass off every single month to build a business, excel in your career, make more money, grow on YouTube, build a social media following.
So in a way, it does make sense. And I think this is what a lot of people are going to end up doing, because they realize that the normal way of high school, college, degree, getting a normal 9-to-5 cubicle job or whatever, and then retiring at like 60, 65 is just not going to cut it. You have to do something online now. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's basically all that I do. The only thing that I've really done successfully, other than work like crappy retail jobs part-time. But more and more people who normally wouldn't do that and would have been fine with a normal 9-to-5 that had good benefits and good pay and all of that, are gonna have to branch out and start doing this kind of crazy shit, because you're just not gonna get paid enough if you get a lot of these degrees that are even decent degrees. It's not like gender studies or crap like that, like I did photography. Terrible, terrible decisions. Don't do that crap. But what that guy had to say kind of does make a little bit of sense. And some people are going to really have no choice other than to kind of do what he's talking about. Another long video. I've been rambling on for half an hour. I'm gonna cut a lot of this out because I bet I've been talking out of my ass for quite a while. But still, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and I will talk to you guys later.